We're going to do so much in this chapter on rigging and skinning, but we're going to take it in small chunks. You're going to build a complete rig for this character and then weight paint it as well. You'll be able to move his head and his chest. We'll go into constraints on his hands so that he'll be able to make a fist, which is important for punching, as superheroes are wont to do. We'll do a reverse foot rig to help animating things like the run and moving him around. And of course, we will continue to tweak things as necessary. Meshes, armatures, and so on. Let's get out of edit mode and we'll add an armature. First, let's move our cursor here because we want the armature to appear here. Shift S, cursor to center, Shift A, add armature, single bone. Tab to enter edit mode. Let's just grab that with a right click and type G, Z, move it all the way up. X-ray, let's go to the armature context and select X-ray axis and names from the display panel. Give ourselves more room, right click, join area. Open our properties. Let's close the ones that we're not using. And go ahead and name this. Type E to extrude, Z along the Z axis. E to extrude again, Z. E to extrude. Let's look at it from the side. Moving it, I'm always restricting it to the Z axis. Let's go ahead and name these. You might want more than one bone in here depending on what your character's going to be doing, but I don't think we'll need that. And then T for tool shelf, turn X axis mirror on. We'll select the tip of this bone, which tip, by the way, is the tail for Blender, and the root is the head. So you'll hear me say tip and root probably, but in Blender the root is the head and the tail is the tip. We'll pull this out, and then I did a Shift E to extrude those out equally along the both sides. You do Shift E the first time, and then subsequent extrusions along that bone chain you can just do E. So I'm going to go to the bone context, make this not connected, and do the same for the other side. Make it not connected, type G. Let's just move the shoulders down a little, and I'm going to make these level. I'm just going to scale S along the Z, 0. When you're in edit mode for bones, bones kind of act like an edge, you know, two vertices connected. So scaling them in this mode, you're not going to see them get squished or anything. I'd like this to have no bone roll. I'll type 0. And when we're looking straight on, you can see that. Let's go along the X. and then extrude down for his arm. I think I'll just extrude all the way down. Just like that. Subdivide it. Look at it from this top here. Let's pull this out. And let me roll these. Bring out the hand. Again, it's like, does it need to have a roll on it? In this case, that one, I think it did. Let's see. Let's see if we get rid of this one. Yeah. Control R to roll it. And let's just do a control tab over to pose mode real quick. Select that. Let's look down on it. I'm going to see if I switch to Euler XYZ. We're really rolling along the positive Z. Let's see. Let's roll this about 90 degrees. Okay, that's really 90 from where it was. And then let's control tab back to pose. Rotate that. That's in the negative X. I kind of like this to be, when you rotate this direction, be the positive X. So let's just go back once more and rotate this all the way around. And then there we go. Notice our bone, our Z is down. I mean, our X is pointed down. If you're having trouble, that's what we're trying to do. We'll have X. So it's this axis that when we're rotating just along its it's easier to do from here. But if we were to lock these, you can see there we're rotating just onto X. Anyway, then same thing with this guy. If we were to look at this straight on and rotate it down, let's just look at it for Euler. I always say Euler. I embarrassed my nerdy friends by saying that wrong. Let's go ahead and rotate this 180 degrees as well. Roll it, I should say. So there's 90, there's 180, approximately. I'm trying to get it from the point of view, so it's not going to have a perfect roll, but there we go. Now, let's see, we could do the fingers next. You know, let's do naming whilst we think about things. Let's see, this will be shoulder L and shoulder R. Remember, it's important to have those names exactly the same with a exception of the L and the R. So let's say upper arm L, upper arm R. And I'm going to just say lower arm. I could say forearm, but since I said upper arm, lower arm feels better to me. And this is hand. All right. So we've got some of the bones in. Just taking a peek here. When we're working in edit mode, we're figuring out the rest position for these bones. So how about, let's move that up a little. Let's do a Shift D down here. And then E. Let's see if we, oops, as we fall into chaos. Undo. E. And I'm going to do that along the Z. And I'm just going to delete those. We'll leave a little bit of a bend in the knee. That'll help with the IK solver to figure out how to bend it. Really. And let me Control Tab. Select this guy. I just want to see, that's a positive X. That seems good to me. Go back to edit mode. Let's name these guys. Phi L. Phi R. Shin L. Shin R. Someone out there is saying, how come you don't make it upper leg and lower leg? Yeah. Actually, if I were getting really, specific about the naming, I would be tempted to call this arm upper, arm lower, arm, Then you can find it grouped in the list a little easier. But for now, we'll keep it more user-friendly. And I'll address the leg on a separate document. In fact, I'll do the fingers and the leg. This is a good start. Let's call it for this lesson, and then we'll address those things specifically in subsequent lessons. I'll go ahead and save. In my case, I'm doing save as because I'm saving iterations. Let's take a look at what we got. Sometimes instead of spending a long time building this long rig before seeing any sort of results, it's kind of fun to take a little break and see what do we have so far. So what I'm going to do is I select the mesh and then select the armature that is going to deform the mesh last. So it is the active object. It's the bright orange. Then I'm just going to do Control P, and I'm going to say armature and use automatic weights. And when I do that, I can switch over to pose mode, right click a bone, and rotate it, and you can see we're deforming the mesh. The automatic weights takes its best guess as to what vertices should be associated with what. When we have the armature, it's probably best to, in our modifiers for the object, select the object, modifiers, go up, and set that as first. Hello. Raise up your shoulder, raise up your arm. That doesn't look too great, but that's where our weight painting comes in. That's not too bad. Then we could just select all of them, do Alt-R, move them back to their original positions, removing the rotations. So that's kind of cool. What else happened when we did that, when we parented? Well, if we select the mesh, and we go over here to our mesh context, you'll see we made all sorts of vertex groups. We don't need to see these right now. Give ourselves some more room. And then with your mouse over this window, shift scroll so that you can see more of the list. Here, if we decide we want to reparent or whatnot, we could just whack all of these groups. All of these groups that were made, these are vertex groups that correspond to the bones. So we're playing right now just to be able to see, hey, now I've got a guy that can wave his arm. When we get back to where we were, what we'll do is we can just go in here, we'll select this guy. He got his armature modifier here. We can get rid of it. So now we'll no longer deform those bones. We could select them again, go here. We've got all these groups that we made. Gee, that's great, but we don't need them anymore. We can just go here. We can say delete all groups, and then we can reparent again. So that's something to try. Now we're going to add either the hand or the foot. I think what we're going to do is add the hand or the fingers, and that's fairly time consuming. I'm going to give myself a little more room, and in fact, I don't have to do this, but just for fun, I'll split the window and we can see what's happening over here on this hand, over here on this hand, as we name things, as we bring the fingers out and so on. So just going to move this over. And now I'm just going to bring one of these right out along the X. Select it, disconnect it. I'll move it over. And I'm just going to say finger. I'll do this. Oops. this did not go well. So I'm just going to back up for a second. Let's see, where did I go wrong? I disconnected it here, and I didn't disconnect it here, so make sure you do that. That's a good thing I had both windows open. Now that's looking a lot better. In fact, let's make sure. I think I'm going to move these all over, and well, actually, let's go ahead and tilt them down now. I'll look at this from the back. Shift D. That's good. Shift D. And then let's do the thumb. Okay, so now we need to break these into fingers, so I'm sorry, this is just going to take a while. I'll try and move rapidly and efficiently. So let's open our tool shelf here and do W, subdivide, two cuts. And the thumb only needs one cut. And now the naming. This will be, in this case, I am going to prefix everything with finger instead of going the pinky, ring, whatever route. So especially since there's so many of these bones, it'll be nice just to have them all grouped together. So this will be finger. Actually, let's start with the index finger. Finger, let's say 1, 1, L. In fact, I'm going to copy that. 1, 2, L. 1, 3, L. This will be 2, 1, L. 2, 2, L. 2, 3, L. 3, 1, L. Alright, now thumb, I know, I'm just going to say finger 0. Which then gets into the whole debate of if I'm starting counting with 0, and why did I start those with 1? But finger 0, that stands out to me, so I'm going to go with that. And I'll do the same over here. I'm going to hide my tool shelf here, my properties there, just so I'm less confused, if possible. Finger 0, 1, R. Do. Maybe drag if Blender crashed. Oh, just as you're finishing this up. Fortunately, Blender rarely crashes. All right, yay, yay. That's the naming's done. That's good. So I'm just gonna hide this again since I'm doing more work over here. I'll bring it back over here. Really, these could be brought down just a little bit more. All right. You can see why you want to turn names on and off as you're working, because when they're all on like that, it gets kind of messy. So those are the fingers. I have not done anything special right now. All you have to do is forward kinematics for them. And this is 10 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and save it at this point and then come back and continue on the hand. All right, let's go ahead and parent the armature and say with automatic bone weights and see how that's working for us. Let's select the armature and go into pose mode. Let's look at this from the front and rotate that down. Okay, we're going to have to do some weight painting. Now we're just going to use forward kinematics for this, for the hands, because we're just going to put it in a fist. We'll do some IK on the legs. But to make it a little bit easier for when we're moving these bones, we'll add some constraints, because fingers usually don't do that. It'd be a bad day if they did. So on these bones, before we get into weight painting, I'm just going to add a few constraints. And I'm going to do Control-Shift-C and do limit rotation. Go over to the bone constraints. Let's hide that. And say, we don't want it moving on the Z, the Y, and on the X, we only want to go, let's say, 90 degrees. And it should be in the bone's local space. So now when we move, ouch, okay, so positive X is up. That's not what I want. Let's select these bones. See their axes? I'm going to want that Z pointing all the way down. So I'll select those, and I'll select these of the other hand. I'll say Control R to roll, and then I'll just type 180. So it'll roll them 180 degrees. and then go back to pose mode. And there we go. We can only go 90 degrees. So that's nice. We want this on all the fingers though. So let's select all the fingers. Make this one the active one. And then say pose, constraints, copy constraints to selected bones. And now they all have that. Let's see. That's good. White painting bad. Bending at 90 degrees, good. So I could look at it from an odd angle and not worry about it bending in an odd way. Okay, what about the thumb, aka finger 0? We can try it. You can see if the thumb does bend 90 degrees, but this guy here is kind of all over the place. In fact, I really want to adjust it. In fact, I want to adjust a couple things here. Now that I'm thinking about it, let's select our mesh, go to the object context and say draw all edges and the wire. Go to the modifiers, and for the subsurface say optimal display, and let's make sure that the armature is first. There we go. This gives us a better idea where the joints are, but if we just lower our subdivisions back to 0, we can see where the actual mesh loops are for this. And let's go ahead and adjust these. First, let's just clear the rotation on that finger. And then go into edit mode for these bones. Let's just move these right on the joints. This one I think should be over. Alright. We'll select our thumbs and pose, constraints. Let's see what this does. I'm gonna, actually I don't want the constraint on this bone. So that's fine. Aha. This is probably not the way a thumb moves. So let's go into edit mode. Select our thumbs, our thumb bones, and I want I'll look right down the center. Well, let me select these first, because it when you have both sides selected, it's kind of hard to I'm going to do Control R and roll. I really didn't need to have both sides selected in edit mode. And then let's go back to pose mode and see what the heck we're doing. That looks like we're doing it positive X. So let's go back to, I don't know, that doesn't feel right, so let me just Control R 180 and go back. That's definitely not right. There we go. It's okay, we might want to remove that. That may not be worth it, but for now, we'll keep it. And that's adding the constraints. We'll work on our weight painting next.